G'day and welcome back to another exciting episode here on Tomo's Tune-Ups. On this episode, we are working on Grace, the 1974 Leyland Mini, and we are going to be installing the world's first dual battery system inside a classic Mini, including a red arc smart isolator, a DC-DC charger, and most importantly, a 50 amp hour slimline battery. So folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning into this very special episode. As I said, we are installing the world's first dual battery system to a classic Mini. Well, at least I'm the only person that I know of who is going to do it. Now, you're probably thinking one of two things. One, you're a dickhead. And two, why would you want a dual battery system in a classic Mini? Both of those points I can agree with. Yes, I'm a dickhead. Yes, there are better things to spend your money on, and this kit alone probably cost me about $1,000, or retail anyway. Working at the best four-wheel drive company and workshop in Penrith, we supply this sort of stuff, so I managed to get it fairly cheap. So I'll tick that one off. The next reason is simply because we all need extra things such as, inside here, USB chargers and even 12-volt sockets to go and charge your phone, to charge accessories, and away you go. Not just that, but the Rolston Classic is coming up exceptionally soon, and we're no longer taking my Hilux this year. In the Hilux, I run a 100 amp hour slimline battery behind the back seat, and because we're taking Grace this year and there's no Hilux, there's no support vehicle, we're going to be staying in a small cottage in which we need to BYO food. Now, we do have 3 Minis, a Broadspeed, and a Mitsubishi Lancer coming with us. Chances are we're probably not going to have all the food that we need. Now, we can take eskies, but then you run the risk that the eskies are going to leak. It's going to leak water inside the car's going to start rusting, and they've rusted enough as it is. So I figured, let's just get a dual battery setup in which we can run inside Grace. And the best thing about it, this is fully removable. So let's run through what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be fitting it. First and foremost, the most important thing is an isolator. Now, isolators can be many different types. You could run a switch, you could run an inline isolator that has a toggle switch that sends the current one way and not the other, and then you can turn it back the opposite way. So the reason why you'd want something like that is if you have a dual battery system under the bonnet of a vehicle with 2 standard batteries, for instance. You are starting off the main battery, for instance, on this side, and this is your secondary battery running your fridge and all your electronics. Now, if this battery goes dead, but this one's fully charged, you can then switch it so it'll reverse it and therefore start it off the secondary battery. Now, although that is a great idea, it only works with a standard battery. So standard acid-filled battery. You can't do it with a lithium battery, for instance. And lithium batteries under the bonnet of a vehicle, obviously not a Mini because there's not enough room, and if there was, well, then we'll do it. But lithium batteries do not like the cold cranking amps being started. So you want something like an AGM or a deep cycle battery. So a smart isolator enables a current to travel from the standard battery, or the battery that is going to be starting the vehicle, into the secondary battery, but not the current flowing backwards. So essentially what that means is this will enable the vehicle to charge both batteries while driving, but most importantly is that if we didn't have this connected, or we didn't run an isolator whatsoever, and we hardwire it from that battery to this one, it will charge both batteries. If I've got the fridge running 24/7, if I'm charging my phone, I've got the cigarette lighter socket in there with other accessories, it'll drain not only this battery, but it'll pull the current out of the second battery, or the main one. Therefore, we need the isolator. This will only enable charge from the main battery to the secondary one when the ignition is switched on and or running, which is exactly what we need. Now we have a DC to DC charger. Now this helps to regulate the current going to the battery. This has a couple of different modes. We can go through a lead acid, an AGM, a calcium, or a lithium ion battery. It is advised to run a DC-DC charger for several reasons, and one of them being that if you are charging a lithium battery, like this one for instance, you do need to run something to be able to regulate the voltage going to it. If you don't, it can overcharge a battery and cause damage. That also has a 6-stage battery charging system. It is smart alternator compatible, meaning an alternator can charge generally on, for instance, my classic Mini, anywhere between 13.5 and 14.5 volts. A smart alternator can charge you anywhere from about 12 volts to 20, 22 volts. So it'll regulate the voltage depending how much is needed, and then obviously it'll change the amperage in which it outputs. So just because an alternator is putting out 20 volts doesn't mean it's putting out 240 amps. It might only be putting out 100 amps, for instance, depending on the load and where the battery is at and how much charge it's got. Not only that, but this also has a solar input as well. So that will enable us that if we are stopped at the field meal, we are stopped on the side of the road, we are camping for instance, and I just want to top this battery up, I can run a solar input. Solar input once again enables the sun to charge the secondary battery, and it is also removable as well. So there is an Anderson plug, which I'll show you guys in 1 second once I grab it out of the box. And the Anderson plugs make it quick disconnect, but also make it super handy and convenient to be able to wire it up. So this one here, as you can see, this is our solar input just here. So we have a positive and negative. We also have the output that goes to the battery. So there's 2 sets of Anderson plugs on here. And of course we have the 3-pin input, which comes directly from the isolator. So pretty straightforward. A lot of these don't come with the Anderson plugs wired up, but the 12-volt direct ones do. And as you can see, this is a 3-pin Anderson plug, which I need to get another one of those because I don't want to have to cut it and make it look pretty average. Not just that, but we also have, once again, the Slimline 50 amp hour battery. So this actually has an on and off switch. It'll tell you how much charge is in it. I've fully charged this. It gives you a digital display. We have a 5-volt 2.1 socket, top and bottom. We have 2 12-volt sockets as well as 2 Anderson plugs. So like I said, we can run the power into one, and then we can run the power out of it. So that'll go directly to our fridge. So without further ado, let's switch this off. Let's jump in the back of the car, start wiring this thing up, get it mounted. And the best thing about this, I should actually note, is that this is going to be fully removable. As you can see, that is the handle. Probably weighs 30 odd kilos. It might actually say it on here. Give me a second. In fact, it doesn't give a weight, but I'd probably say it's around 30 kilos. So this will be completely removable, and it doesn't mean that I need to leave it in there at all times. I can take this out at any time I need. Even if I wanted to take the fridge out, I wanted to go camping, I could remove this from the vehicle, have the fridge connected, sitting beside the tent, have a couple of cold beers before bed, and off we go, and don't have to worry about running extension leads or going back to the car every time I want to get a drink. Let's jump to the boot, let's get this thing wired up. Alright, so first thing we need to do is find out where the original battery is. The standard battery on a classic Mini is generally located in the boot. Some of them can be in other positions. So we have our Smart Start Smart Battery Isolator by Red Arc, in which we're going to be using. So the part number for this is SBI, that's Sierra Bravo India. I have one of these fitted to my Hilux, and it is a really good piece of gear. Now, it does come with a set of instructions, so make sure you read those prior to fitment. So we're going to be grabbing our isolator. We're going to be mounting that probably around here somewhere. There will be a particular way in which the wires need to run. Now, we do have to make sure that we run them the correct way. Otherwise, if we don't, it's not going to charge properly and it's going to cause an issue. So let's have a quick look at the instructions and see which way we need to wire it up. All right, so as you can see with a picture on the screen, it is pretty self-explanatory. We essentially run it from the battery to a fuse. The fuse then goes to the isolator, so to this terminal here. From there, it goes from this side to the DC-DC charger, which will be located inside there. It also has an earth point in which you need to run here. So wherever it mounts to on the body, we can attach that to there. And then from there, we want to run another fuse from this wire to the DC-DC charger. Essentially, you want to try and fuse as many of these components as you possibly can. That way you give it the best chance that if something's going to fail, there's going to be a fuse between all the components. So essentially, you're going to be running at least 2 fuses in this system. Any less than that, you do run the risk that if it is after the DC-DC charger, or if it's between the battery and the isolator, if there's a problem on the other side of the terminals, you may find that it could create excessive heat. If there's a short circuit somewhere, it'll just melt the entire thing. It'll create a massive world of problem. Essentially, a fuse is there to make sure that it doesn't overload the circuit, and if it does, the fuse will simply pop. Right, so part of the kit that the guys gave me is a bunch of wiring. So we have some positive and negative terminal. We have some heat shrink inside there. We'll put that off to the side. We also have a switchable isolation fuse, which we can, isolating switch, in which we can use instead if we wanted to, but we're not going to in this one. We are going to remove the rest of the heat shield, the heat shrink, should I say, and inside here is going to be a couple of fuses. Now, I really hope they've supplied me with 2, which they haven't. They've only supplied me with 1. Thanks for stitching me up, guys. It's fine, we can make do. This is a small fuse holder. So essentially, the fuse is going to run between these terminals just here. Like I said, we want to make sure that where it comes from the battery, it's going to go to here, and then from here, it's then going to go to the isolator. So that's going to sit in there nice and neatly. That is a 50 amp fuse. So if we are drawing any more than 50 amps, we've likely got a problem. All right, so essentially, these just unscrew. There is a small plate in which needs to be fitted there, as you can see. Otherwise, the current isn't able to jump through. Depending on what sort of fuse holder you have, you may find that it may bolt directly to it, or just go through this bit of metal as well. So all we're going to do is just put those back in there, just like that, and tighten them up on either side, and then we can run the battery from, the wire from the battery to the fuse, in which we're just going to use our giant clamps to be able to clamp the terminals that will attach onto here. Now, we do have a couple of different size eyelets in which we're going to be using. There are, what size? Okay, so we have 2 different sizes. We have 6 and 6, and we've got a 6 and 8. So it denotes the wire size that goes inside the end, but also the eyelet size as well. So we got a 6mm and we got an 8mm hole. We believe the 6mm would probably go in this one where it goes onto the fuse itself, and then the 8mm would probably go, yeah, there we go, you can see that just lines up perfectly there. The 8mm will go to where the battery is. All right, so before we go any further, we just want to work out roughly where we want to fit the fuse. Essentially, I probably want it around here, or even cable tied to that positive terminal. So we probably want it to maybe sit about here. It is fully enclosed, so it doesn't matter too much if it's going to be moving around. I can always secure that using a cable tie and maybe a clamp or a bolt or something. Essentially, I'd like it to sit probably about there. So the terminal is going to run from the positive to here, and it's going to run from there all the way up to here, and then back down in through the back seat and into the rear pocket on the driver's side. I think it's probably going to be the best way to run it. That way I can have it coming out of the pocket straight into the fridge and any other accessories I want to run.
G'day folks, Tomo here from Tomo's Tune-Ups. If you haven't already, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button to my channel. Not only will you be kept informed as to when I release new videos, but also it helps to grow my channel, my analytics, and most importantly, recommend videos to yourself and new subscribers.
All right, so once you've worked out your predetermined wire length, you then want to go ahead and cut the wire to length. Once you've then cut it to length, and it decides to cut, there we go, you then want to be stripping back the wire to be able to put it inside the terminal in which you're going to be using. So I generally only strip back a little bit. There's no need to go ham and pull out a bunch of shielding on the side of it, simply because the more you release, the more that you're going to have to cover up using heat shrink. Essentially, we're going to be sliding it directly over the end of that terminal. Oh, sorry, got a couple of stragglers there. Just going to cut those off. All right, so we just grab our terminal, slide it directly over the end, and then we are ready to clamp this sucker. Essentially, we want to try and make sure that all of the wires that are inside there, and then you can go ahead and clamp it. Now, to clamp this type of terminal, you will need one of these. This is a manual one. You can buy a hydraulic one. It just depends what sort of budget you're on, but this will do absolutely anything and everything, in which you probably need to do on a automobile. So we're just going to slide it directly up inside here. I will do a video on how to do this separately. So you just want to make sure it's seated all the way inside that terminal on both sides. Just hold it in place, give it a squeeze, and that's what's going to help clamp it. Now, this is a really good permanent fixture. So once you've clamped it one place, you then want to rotate it at least 180 degrees to re-clamp it. Now, you'll probably find the first two clamps that we do may be all right, but it could be a little bit loose. If that's the case, what I like to do is go and rotate these one more click. So we're just going to go back to this one and rotate that again. And that way we can just give it that little bit extra, and it's going to ensure that it clamps it. We're not going to have any issues at all. So once again, just put it back in there, give it a good squeeze, release it, turn it 90 degrees or even just 180, re-clamp it. And then we have a permanent fixture. Now, with these, sometimes you can as well heat it up and put some flux inside there, so some solder, and make it a completely sealed and fully hardened connection. It is advised, you don't have to, but something that I like to do. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to clamp the other side. But before we do, we're going to grab a little bit of heat shrink. We're going to ensure that it is, oh, just knock the camera over. It is the right length, which I imagine this probably is, because the boys at work do this every day. It's going to take a little bit of finesse to go over the end. Essentially, we just want to be pushing it over the end of it, up as high as we possibly can. That way it insulates the terminal, and then we can go and use a bit of heat shrink. Oh, sorry, we can use some heat to shrink the heat shrink to make sure it's going to last long and it's going to look good. All right, once you're on one side, you then want to go and clamp the other. All right, so I was actually just thinking off camera, what I'm going to do is run the wire from the battery to the fuse to the isolator, and then we're going to go from the isolator up through that hole that's in the far corner in front of the rear wheel arch. We're going to run an earth wire, so this one here, to ground, so it's just going to attach to the vehicle just like that, I guess, just about here. Also from that wire, we're going to run an earth, which is going to run essentially from down there all the way up into this hole just up in the corner here. That's just going to go down underneath the rear seat, and that way it is removable as well. On the other side of that, we're going to run an Anderson plug. That way, if I want to remove it, all I have to do is disconnect it at the battery, the fuse, the isolator, and then just pull the wire straight through. That way it's not going to complicate anything, and it's not going to be stuck being here all the time. Plus, it'll make it nice and neat. All right, next part is to remove the nut from the isolator. So as I said, this is the one that goes from the battery into here. Fit it just like that. Now we do have to make sure as well that rubber cap goes on there, because if it doesn't, what we'll find will happen is if anything is bouncing around inside the boot, touches it, might be a spanner, some tools or something else, touches that, bang, it's going to short out, it's going to create a massive fire. So that is the last thing we want to do. I believe that is a 12mm spanner, so we'll nip that up. Now, just before I actually go and nip it up, I just want to have a look and see whereabouts I can mount this. I think probably out of the way the most is probably going to be about here. If that's the case, yeah, that'll probably work well. Let's put some riv nuts down in under here to hold it in place, and then we'll secure it with a couple of probably M8 bolts, I reckon. All right, so I'm just going to grab a texture and mark that. All right, just marking a couple of holes in which we need to drill. Sorry, marking a couple of positions. Work out what size drill bits they need to go in there, probably a 6mm, I reckon. Drill it out, we'll put the rivet nuts in there and then put a couple of bolts in to secure it. Alright, so we've got our holes drilled to secure the isolator. Now I only have a Allen key bolt at this stage to be able to put it in. So what I'm going to do is just loosely fit one, probably on the other side actually, probably on this side, because that's where the earth point's going to go as well. I'll put a washer on it, and then we'll run the earth from here inside the car, and then the other wire from here inside the car as well into the Anderson plug. Now I did also forget that off camera I needed to run a second fuse inside the circuit. So one needs to go towards, from the isolator to the DC-DC charger, as well as between the battery and the isolator. So I'm just rigging that up now, and that way it's still completely removable as well. I can just disconnect it all in different stages, and that way if anything happens down the track and I want to remove it, there isn't an issue. All right, we're gonna have to run a bit of heat shrink on those, which once I get it all fitted up and tested, I'll come back and do, just the way it insulates these terminals here and there's no exposed wires. All right, so like any horny teenager, we're in the best part of the car, the back seat. This thing is actually quite comfortable, thanks to Dave, and my light's going bananas out there. It looks like we're having a bit of a lightning storm. Thanks to Dave at Top Stitch Motor Trim, these seats are mega comfy and super duper happy with them. Now, like I said, we're in the back seat of the car. Essentially what we want to be doing now is wiring up the remainder of the DC-DC charger. So we've got the two wires that run directly from power and earth. So these two suckers just here. Essentially what we need to do is put an Anderson plug on this, but we do need a 3-pin Anderson plug. I'm going to get that tomorrow, which you guys will see in the next scene. So two of the wires, as we discussed with the DC-DC charger before, are power and earth. On the other third terminal is an ignition switch. So meaning that will only power when the ignition is on. So what I need to do is run a third wire all the way down under the carpet, up through near the dash, and rig it up to an ignition source. So whether it be the ignition switch itself or something that has 12 volts when the ignition's turned on, cigarette lighter, the radio for instance, wire it up to there. And then from there we can plug the DC-DC charger in. So let's have a quick look and see exactly where the spare battery is going to go and how it's all going to work. All right, so we have the driver's rear pockets just here. Nothing actually stays in here at the moment, which is really good. I've just been carrying a couple of odds and ends. That battery essentially will go in there just like that. It could probably go down a little bit further, yeah, so it could go something like that. However, the only thing is, because of the Anderson plugs, the wire would have to go down, up, in, underneath. It's going to be really, really tight. If this piece wasn't here at the front, it would probably be okay to kind of lift it up at the back first and then put it in, but because of this last little bit, it's not actually going to sit there. So what it will do is it'll sit on an angle like this. Now the DC-DC charger will sit probably just snug and just kind of squash it in between there. That way it runs directly from here. We've got an Anderson, and then comes directly out straight into there, and then from there we've got an Anderson coming out, which will sit directly on the back seat just here, going towards the fridge. As I said, it is a fully powered system, so I can lean over and turn this on whilst the car is running. And if I want to know, all I've got to do is just open the flap and just have a look and see how much voltage there is. There's currently 13.8 volts, so it's completely charged, which is fantastic. And as I said, because it's got the two USB ports there as well as two 12-volt ports, I can use those to charge phones. I can run an adapter on there. I could run a small inverter if I needed to, charge my laptop, anything really that sits, that is adaptable to here, I can certainly make run. So, like I said, next scene, we're going to get a 3-pin connector. We're going to do the power, earth, and the ignition source. We're going to wire that up to the 3-pin plug it all in, test it, and make sure it works. All right, so as you can see, I've got the 3-pin terminal wired up. The only thing I don't have in there at the moment is the ignition switch for it. It's probably not going to be overly important, but because it runs directly off the dual battery just down here, it's not going to matter too much that even if it is drawing current, it's only going to be drawing it out of this one and not the factory battery. So I've got this wired up the exact same way of the plug. The interesting thing that it has on here, I'll see if I can get a good glimpse of it, is you have a positive eye, which would be like ignition switch, for instance, and negative. So this is generally how you'd wire it up depending on the style of setup. So what I've done is just marry up the two and wired it the exact same way. So as you can see, red to red, black to black, and then we might run a ignition or accessory wire down the track, but we'll see how this goes to begin with. So all we need to do there, connect it together, pretty straightforward. So as you can see, oh, it's actually turned on. Awesome, how good's that? You can switch through, and depending on what type of battery you have, you can change it. It'll also tell you when it's powered on, when it's charging, when it's fully charged, and a solar input as well. Okay, so what we need to do is come out through the back here and have a look. Okay, fantastic. So as you can see, I'll just turn this light off so you guys can actually see. That little red light that you see there is from the isolator. Essentially, I've got the battery charger on there at the moment, just to make sure that it's topped up. That isolator will only operate when the battery has sufficient charge or when it is being charged. So if you find that that light stays on for a couple of minutes after driving the vehicle, that is completely normal. The battery is fully charged and it's just maintaining that. Once it gets to a certain level, that little LED light will turn on. Once it comes down to another level, you'll find generally, I think it's around 12.7 volts, it'll then cut that power. So it's not drawing it all the time. So that is completely normal operation. So what I might just do is I'll just connect up the negative side of the battery, make sure my charger's on. Yep, so she's charging. Let's go back and double check to make sure the DC-DC is working. Okay, so now we have battery on. So what we're going to do is we're just going to change battery types and see if it'll, oh, there we go. So if you heard that clunk, that was just the relay switching on. So I think I'll just turn it off again. I might just disconnect it and then just reconnect it. It's probably going to be the best option, I think. Yep, there we go. I've got the clunk of the relay. Okay, excellent. Okay, let's just go through. Now there we go. All right, cool. So now I've got it changed to L-ion, so lithium ion battery. That is it. So now that is going to remain probably just hidden down amongst here. We're going to reposition the battery. And the good thing about this is we can switch the battery on and off, so depending on the power supply and what we're doing, whether we have the fridge in there or not, we can always switch it off. We can remove it, and it is super mega accessible, which is great. Now the good thing about this is being in this pocket, it's going to hide a lot of this. So this is pretty average in which I've just put it, but essentially it'll sit in there, something like that. It'll be obviously a lot cleaner once I can do it with two hands. There is a little piece of steel down under here, like a little box section. I'm not sure why it's there. It's just directly in front of the wheel arch. What I might actually do is cut that way I can slide the battery directly down in there. I'm probably going to have it on a bit of an angle because of the Anderson plug, because of how far it sticks out. If that bit of metal wasn't there, it would sit directly flush with the floor, so it would give a nice cleaner finish, which will then enable me to probably hide this a bit better. It's going to be a bit of a squish. Oh, there we go. Oh, cool. So essentially it'll sit something like that, obviously just a lot neater. So that is it, folks. The world's first dual battery setup on a classic Mini. Hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm really looking forward to the Ralston Classic this year, like I am every single year, and I really hope that you guys are able to make it. And if you do, come check it out. Come say g'day. I will tidy up a lot of the wiring off camera. Just at the moment, I've obviously got it rigged up where everything is enabled to be able to work. And also, you don't want to, like I've said before many times, you want to make sure that when you are doing something like this, don't reconnect everything until you know the system works. Otherwise, if I run everything beautifully, everything's hidden, and then I've got a problem, and I've got to pull it all back apart again, you're just wasting time. So set it up, make sure it works. If it does, send it, put it all back together. If not, then make sure you diagnose the issues now whilst it's in this condition. Thanks heaps for watching. Stay positive. Keep lifting each other up. Hope to see you at the Ralston Classic for 2025, or at least in the future. Have a good one. Catch you on the next one.